Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. There's such a beautiful, famous piece of RAMBAM that the Shulchan Aruch also brings in Laws of Charity. The 8 levels of charity that is incumbent on every person, Jew. We know Judaism is about being a giver rather than a taker. So the Shulchan Aruch brings the highest level of charity is to give a gift to a poor person, that the highest level of charity, the common denominator is we help him in such a way that he won't be a poor anymore and he'll stand up on his own feet. So either the Shulchan Aruch says you could give him a large gift, then he'll open up his own business, or you'll make him a partner in your business, or you'll lend him money. And then there's no shame in that. Even the greatest corporations, Fortune 500 companies, need to borrow money. So you lend him money interest-free, he starts a business and he pays you back. Or, like the Chinese proverb goes, if you give a fish to a person, you fed him for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, you fed him for a lifetime. So to find somebody a solid job, this is the highest form of kindness, of charity, because the guy won't need charity anymore once he has his own business and he has a solid job and he could support himself and stand on his 2 feet. A lower level is that the person giving the charity and getting the charity are not acquainted with one another. That's why we have like a Charity-Sedaka that collects on behalf of the poor people. He gives it to them. The person giving doesn't have to feel superior. That, he'll look down upon the person possibly that he's giving the money to, and the person doesn't have to be ashamed because he doesn't know who he's getting for. And the Shulchan Aruch says, if the Gabbai, if we know the organization distributing the money is ethical and moral, and they don't pocket the money themselves, they're trustworthy, then this is one of the most practical and beautiful and appropriate ways of giving charity. There's a lower level, which the Gemara talks about, and that is the person giving the charity knows who he's giving to, but the person getting the charity doesn't know who he's getting it from. Like we find in the Talmud, in the middle of the night, the great rabbis and their wives used to go put food at the doorstep of somebody that they knew for a fact couldn't make Shabbat, didn't have enough challah or wine or meat and chicken and fish. They would just put it by the door and like a flash, very secretively, very discreetly put the money or food under the person's mat and dash off so they wouldn't get caught and the person would feel ashamed. And this is also, if God forbid the Charity-Sedaka, the organizations have a high overhead and they're not really taking care of the poor, this is the better way of doing it, giving it directly to the poor, because they're going to get what they need and it doesn't go to waste over bureaucracy. The lower level of giving charity is the person getting it knows who he's getting it from, but the person giving it doesn't know who he's giving it to. Like the rabbis used to put their backpack or a type of sack on their back full of money, and the poor people used to come and take it. Now, then the idea here is that the less the poor person is ashamed, the bigger the mitzvah, the higher the level of charity. The lower level than the previous one is that you give to the person before he begs you and asks you for it. Again, having to plead is embarrassing and uncomfortable. So if you give it to him before he even asks, this is a high level of charity. A lower level is pachot mizeh sheiten lo keraui achar sheishal. At least after he asks you, He says, give me lunch money. You give him the $10, whatever, that he'll be comfortable. Because if you don't solve his problem, if you learn the halacha based on the Gemara in Ketubot and the Torah, the goal is to alleviate his problem and make him happy and comfortable, because it says love your neighbor as yourself. The lower level is that you give it to him what he needs, or you don't necessarily give him his full lunch money, but at least you're giving it to him with a happy face, right? You're comfortable in giving it, and then the lowest level is, unfortunately, is even if you give him what he needs, but you give it to him in a angry and disparaging way, demeaning way, you put him down, that is unappropriate. So may Hashem help us always to be blessed, and we should know those that give, if we help the destitute, the poor, the people that are in need, then if we're in need and we ask God for something, for health, wealth, parnasah, to get married, to find good spouses for our children, then God will also reciprocate midah keneged midah. Once we've heard the cry and the need of the poor, God midah keneged midah, measure for measure, will hear our cry and plead. And may Hashem always bless us, because don't forget, it's always better to give than to receive. Chazak ve'ematz.